In this video, we're going to show you to install the window regulator on your Honda Ridgeline located on the driver's side rear door. With the rear door open, we're going to start right up here. There's a little sail panel. We're gently going to tug on the top towards you. And then lift up. You're releasing the metal clip from this little locking tab. And there's a couple tabs on the bottom that secure into the door panel itself. Go ahead and set that aside. Behind the door handle here is going to be a little plastic cover. We're going to use our pocket screwdriver. Going to pull this out and go right underneath the bottom of this little plastic cover. Gently twist and pull out. You're releasing the little lock tab here and two on the top. Set that aside. Inside here, it's going to be a couple of Phillips head screws. Loosen and remove these screws. With the screws removed, go ahead and grab this handle, pull that out, and you're going to rotate this. Right on the back side, there's a little clip here that holds onto the cable. Sometimes you can get your finger in there, but I'm going to use my pocket screwdriver. Gently lift up on this clip. And it'll just pivot up out of the way. Then you can pull the cable end out of the back side of the door handle. Has a little 90-degree metal tab on it. And then you can pull the cable right out of the locking mechanism. Simply just grab that with your finger, pull that straight out. Ours is in there pretty good. You can use your pocket screwdriver once again for this to assist you popping that out. Just pops right out of the little groove here. Inside your door pull, you may have a little rubber pad down below. You can use your pocket screwdriver and just kind of pluck that out of there. Ours is not in there, but that exposes a Phillips head screw. So use your Phillips head screwdriver, loosen and remove that screw. Next, we want to go ahead and remove our door panel. Now, the door panel is held in place by a series of plastic retainer clips around the door and attaches it to the metal door shell. Now, if you run your fingers around the plastic, right around the corner here, you can get your fingers in there to go ahead and pull this. I'm going to use my left knee just to support the door. And I'm going to grab here on the corner and just kind of pull towards me in a quick, abrupt move. Now, some of these plastic clips, they do pop off. It's kind of typical. And just work your way around the edge, pulling these out. You can see that the door panel is now swinging. It's hinged on the top. Now we want to grab that door panel. We're going to pull it out gently and then lift upward. As you pull it away, there's going to be some cables behind. We need to now disconnect these. Now right here we have a cable coming across to our side lamp. We're going to follow this cable over, grab the connector to the bulb, twist it counterclockwise. That'll disconnect the bulb end. Now this is also held onto the door panel by a plastic retainer. I'm going to use my trim tool and go ahead and pop that out. Then we have our connector over here for our window. There's a little pinch tab that you're going to pinch and pull, and I'll show you that once we remove this. Right on the top here, it's a little spring clip, a little spring tab. You're going to push that in with your finger and then pull that connector out of the back side of the switch. And then we'll set this aside. Right in the center of our door is a bracket here. This is what was supporting the door panel for the door pull area. 2 Phillips head screws. Loosen and remove these here. Once these are out, we'll take that bracket and the screws and set those aside together. Remove your water shield. We're going to start by popping these little rubber buttons out. Sometimes you can grab the water shield and gently kind of roll it out. If that doesn't work, use your trim tool, get behind the rubber button here, and just gently pry it out. Now there's 2 of these, 1 on each upper corner. So we're going to move to the front side here. Do the same here. Try not to tear the water shield with those out. The next thing is remove the water shield. Now there is an adhesive around the perimeter, and this is a self-sealing adhesive. So normally if it's held on good, you're gonna start to pull this here. You don't wanna tear the plastic. Try not to do it. If you do, you can simply seal it by using some good tape later on. But what I like to do is take a razor blade and carefully, gently tug and go ahead and cut the adhesive as you're gently pulling. I'm going to do this all the way around the perimeter. This is time consuming, but it needs to get done. There are some small sections in the middle here. We also want to do the same once you get the perimeter done. There's a section on the top here. Pull your door cable through. Pull the other harnesses through. Pull it off the door latch. And go ahead and put that aside. Now our next step is we need to raise or lower your glass. In order to get the bolts for our window regulator locking bracket, you're gonna have a 10mm bolt here and one is gonna be accessible right here. So in our case, our window's down. We put the key in the on position. We're going to grab our door panel, reconnect our switch on the door panel, and we're going to use our switch. You're going to look down and raise this up. Once you get these lined up, disconnect the connector, and I'll show you here once we pop this off. Looking through the hole here, you're going to see a 10mm bolt, and then the other one will be exposed right here. So let's go ahead and grab our tools, and we're going to go ahead and start to remove some hardware. We're going to use our 10mm shallow socket and an extension, and we're going to loosen and remove the two 10mm bolts here. And these are basically the clamps that secure the glass to the regulator. Go ahead and set those aside. Our next step is to grab our glass, and we're going to pull it up. Now you can use regular tape, you can use painter's tape or whatever you want, but you're going to run from the glass up and over the top of the door and onto the other side to prevent that glass from dropping down inside. In our case, we have specific tools for this here. It's a suction cup with a cable. Let's go ahead and focus down on the regulator bolts. Now our power window motor is located right here, and there's an electrical connector that comes up and it goes right here. It's a light blue on our particular model, but you're going to reach around on the side of the connector and you're going to pull your finger towards you. You're going to feel that little spring clip or spring connector flex in, and then grab that connector and pull that off. So here's a little spring tab. So it's going to be faced like that. You're going to reach around and press on that and pull that down. There's a series of 10mm bolts. Anything that has a hole beside it like this here is simply loosen it. You don't have to remove it. Remove, loosen, 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 and then down to the bottom, we have a loosen and a remove. Let's go ahead and start with this. Now we're going to remove our regulator and the motor at the same time, so you're going to be reaching inside. You're going to grab the regulator and you're going to lift it up so that the bolt comes up out of the slot. Same thing on the bottom. So the regulator should pop out. Now we have the motor. We're going to reach in, grab that motor and move it so that those bolts come out of the slots. And then work this over and out of the door. Now with this out, the next thing we want to do is all of the bolts that we loosened, we are now going to go ahead and remove them and swap them over to the new unit. Go ahead and swap over your factory bolts. Now if your unit comes with hardware, you can go ahead and use that on the component. I like to use the factory hardware myself, just a personal preference. And then on our regulator itself, remember we have these slotted lower left, upper left. Now our unit is ready to install. Feed the regulator in. Now the regulator itself, you have to slide in both bolts at the same time, technically, and then drop that down into place, and that'll lock in, and then you can grab that motor, bring that over and position that, and then drop those down. We'll install the lower bolts on the regulator. Get that bolt started. Go ahead and get the one on the top started. Now we can snug everything down. I'm going to grab the harness connector here. Now on the factory unit, this would plug right into it, but ours has a little pigtail on it. Going to line this up. Clip it together. Now I want to keep this from getting caught in the regulator unit itself. So what we're going to simply do is we're going to tuck this in. We're going to use a wire tie here, or a little plastic tie. Simply attach it like so, and then we'll snip off the pigtail here. Our next step is we need to put the key back on in the ignition and hook up our door panel and move our regulator so it comes back up to where we can put our bolts back in, lower our glass into it, and secure all that there. Once you have the regulator lined up here, we can put the bolts in. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the switch again and remove the door panel. I'm going to remove our glass securing straps here. Now if you have your tape, you can go ahead and pull that tape off, and we're going to slowly grab that glass and gently lower it down into the regulator. You're just going to guide those down and in. Once you have the guides lined up, go ahead and install your bolts. Going to feed that bolt in. Always get these bolts started by hand before you run a power tool on them. You don't want to cross thread anything. Once you get those started, go ahead and snug them down. Gently snug them. Now at this point, what I like to do is go ahead and hook up your door panel again, test that unit, and make sure it goes all the way up, all the way down, nice and smooth. Perfect. Everything is working as it should. So I'm going to disconnect the connector from the door panel, shut down my power, and then we'll continue with our reassembly. Install your water shield. Before you start sticking on all the edges, don't forget to feed your cable ends through. I'm going to start by sticking the top corner here and then installing one of the buttons, and then come over to the other side. I'm going to line up the center, stick that on. Pop that on, and then it's pretty much self-aligns for the most part. You might have to guide it a little bit. Now remember, if your plastic is torn, you go ahead and use some tape to secure that. Install a bracket in the center portion of the door. Just going to get the lower screw started, then we'll get the upper screw started, and then we'll snug them both down. Now our next step is to install our door panel. Now you want to go around the perimeter and check for these white plastic buttons. One of ours had popped out when we removed the door panel. Sometimes these are stuck in the door shell itself, and you can simply use your trim tool to go ahead and pop those out, and then take them and reinstall it by simply sliding that into place and snapping that down into the hole. Make sure they are in all of the positions around the door. Install your window switch, and then press in this little button here and install your bulb. Make sure that window switch snaps into place. Now we're going to take our door panel, we're going to lift it up and get the top portion latched onto the strip here on the top. And you're also going to have to line up your door lock unit itself. Sometimes you can use your pocket screwdriver to get in there and just kind of line that up. There it is. You feel it drop down. Now at this point, you're going to work your way around the perimeter, pressing in those plastic buttons. And then run your fingers around the perimeter, make sure that that entire door panel is fully seated to the door shell. Install your door pull screw. Once that's secure, if you had a little pad in there or whatever, go ahead and drop that into place. Take your handle. We need to install the cable end here. And this green portion here needs to go into this little groove. And then the 90-degree metal piece here on the cable end will go into the little door latch unit that moves. And then we're going to fold over this white clip to snap it onto the cable to secure it. Okay. Secured. On the back side here, there are two tabs that actually insert underneath the door panel itself. So push those in and then push the handle back. Install your screws. I'm not going to tighten that down yet until we get our second one in. Once they're both started, you can now go ahead and snug those down. Install your little trim panel here. The portion with the little notch in it will go on the bottom. So we're going to install the top first, push it up and in, and then press the bottom in to secure it. Going to install the upper sail panel piece here. There are two little tabs here that install onto the panel, and then your metal tab will simply snap into the door sill. And you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.